killed Catwoman? Who killed Catwoman? I said the sparrow was my bow window. It was a bow, it was I. Who caused his blood? Who caused his blood?
Do you fear for your child?
Mr. Chairman, we have in this country one of the most corrupt institutions the world has ever known. I refer to the Federal Reserve Board and the Federal Reserve Banks, hereinafter called the Fed. The Federal Reserve, a corrupt institution. This evil institution has impoverished and ruined the people of these United States, has bankrupted itself, and has practically bankrupted our government. It has done this through the defects of the law under which it operates, through the maladministration of that law by the Fed, and through the corrupt practices of the moneyed vultures who control it. The government and the people of these United States have been swindled by swindlers deluxe, to whom the acquisition of American or a parcel of Fed notes presented no more difficulty than the drawing up of a worthless acceptance in a country not subject to the laws of these United States, by sharpers not subject to the jurisdiction of these United States, sharpers with strong banking fence on this side of the water, a fence acting as a receiver of a worthless paper coming from abroad, endorsing it and getting the currency out of the Fed for it as quickly as possible, exchanging that currency for gold, and in turn transmitting the gold to its foreign confederates. Are you going to let these thieves get off scot-free? Is there one law for the looter who drives up to the door of the United States Treasury in his limousine, and another for the United States veterans who are sleeping on the floor of a dilapidated house on the outskirts of Washington? Every effort has been made by the Fed to conceal its powers. But the truth is, the Fed has usurped the government. It controls everything here, and it controls all of our foreign relations. It makes and breaks governments at will. The people of these United States are being greatly wronged. They have been driven from their employments. They have been dispossessed from their homes. They have been evicted from their rented quarters. They have lost their children. They have been left to suffer and die for lack of shelter, food, clothing, and medicine. The Fed should be repealed, and the Fed banks, having violated their charters, should be liquidated immediately. Faithless government officials who have violated their oaths of office should be impeached and brought to trial. It is the money of slaves, not of free men. If the people of the United States permit it to be imposed upon them at the will of their credit masters, the next step in their downward progress will be their acceptance of orders on company stores for that what they eat and wear. Their case will be similar to that of starving coal miners. They too will be paid with orders on company stores for food and clothing, both of indifferent quality, and be forced to live in company-owned houses from which they may be evicted at the drop of a hat. More of them will be forced into conscript labor camps under supervision. The people of the U.S. are now using unredeemable paper slips for money. The Treasury cannot redeem that paper in gold or silver. The gold and silver of the Treasury has unlawfully been given to the corrupt and dishonest Fed, and the administration has since had the effrontery to raid the country for more gold for the private interest by telling our patriotic citizens that their gold is needed to protect the currency. There must be a day of reckoning. If the Fed have looted the Treasury so that the Treasury cannot redeem the United States currency for which it is liable in gold, then the Fed must be driven out of the Treasury. There are many ways of raising revenue that are better than that barbaric act of injustice. I do not like to see vivisections performed on human beings. I do not like to see the American people used for experimental purposes by the credit masters of the United States. They predicted among themselves that they would be able to produce a condition here in which American citizens would be completely humbled and left starving and penniless in the streets. Whereas I charge them jointly and severally with having conspired with foreign principals and others to defraud the U.S. government and to prevent the people of the U.S. from receiving payment of the war debts due to the U.S. from foreign nations. Whereas I charge them jointly and severely with having robbed the U.S. government and the people of the U.S. by their theft and sale of the gold reserve of the U.S. and their unlawful transactions created a deficit in the U.S. Treasury, which has necessitated to a large extent the destruction of our national defense and the reduction of the U.S. Army and the U.S. Navy and other branches of the national defense. And whereas I charge them jointly and severally of having reduced the U.S. from a first-class power to one that is dependent, and with having reduced the U.S. from a rich and powerful nation to one that is internationally poor, and whereas I charge them jointly and severely with the crime of having treasonably conspired and acting against the peace and security of the U.S., and with having treasonably conspired to destroy constitutional government in the U.S., President Andrew Jackson stated about bankers at the start of his administration, "You are a den of vipers and thieves. I intend to root you out, and by the eternal God I will root you out."
And this is what the devil does. And this is what the devil does.